Luke Cage Season 2 review for this Netflix original series that is based within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The second season takes place right after the events of The Defenders. Maybe not right after, but you can definitely see that what happened in that series precedes this one, just the changes to the characters and how things have evolved. So obviously we have the direct connection to the first season, but then again we also have a bit of an evolution on some of the characters that were present during the events of the Defenders miniseries. And basically with that, we have a 13-episode season again, and yeah, it actually works out pretty well. So sometimes with the Marvel shows, you find, basically a lot of the Netflix shows, you find that there's a lot of filler content, and this one actually I felt has some really good pacing and balance to it, where episodes did feel essential even if they were a bit slower. Towards the ending, it gets a little bit, like, quite slow, which is weird. Like, it's at the start I was kind of like, you know, not quite as good as the first season, and then it starts really picking up and getting very dark in terms of narrative. There's some crazy things that go on in this one that really up the just the level of like violence and so forth. So you're getting a return to perhaps form for the you know, the Marvel Netflix shows, because they have been getting a little bit more tame, I would say, in their second seasons usually, and it's nice to see Luke Cage once again, you know, get that really aggressive side of things that's been missing in this more mature and realistic take on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that, again, starts off a little bit slow, kind of gets you going, you know, introduces everybody where they're at. Luke Cage is confident, he's tough, he knows who he is now, he knows the streets, and it's really interesting to see his character develop over the season, because you do get a lot more, like, it works through a lot of his issues that he's been having, and introduces some core characters that kind of really help him realize who he is, what he has to do, and his role in Harlem. So to the side of him is a somewhat close friend, I want to say, Misty Knight. She's dealing with the loss of her arm from the Defenders. I don't think it's really spoilers, if, you know, because that's already happened. So she's dealing with that. She's a pretty badass character, and yeah, she gets some pretty cool stuff happens to her over the course of the series. A lot of focus really on three core parties in this one. So you have Luke Cage in his sort of working with the police, working with the people, and then you have you know, the club crew. Shades is back. You get to see that their crew get a little bit more intense, and you get a better look into their lives. And then there's also this third mystery force that's headed by this one individual that's very powerful. So one of the key things is, you know, Luke Cage, very, very tough, very strong, and he gets almost cocky about it, too confident, and then somebody takes him down a peg, and that's sort of how the events go. So you have all these factions that are going at it. I'd say Luke Cage is kind of caught in the middle of the two, and he's just trying to deal with things and, you know, give a resolution to everything in his own way, and that was very interesting. So again, going back to the sort of structure here, a little bit slow introducing characters, really picks up really intense episodes, really well done, very exciting, very interesting, and that continues to build all the way to the end where it's like a little bit slower, a couple like slower episodes to help build more of a backstory. One of the things that annoys me a lot in these Netflix shows are flashbacks, which they seem to abuse almost to the point of like way too many. So there's properly done flashbacks in this one to give context. You get a villain that you actually kind of feel sorry for, and actually, you know, you kind of get a perspective. That's what's really cool about this, is that there's not really the core villain, right? There's like multiple villains going at it at once. You're not falling into the same trap as Netflix usually does with their Marvel shows, where it's like, oh, that big bad guy wasn't the big bad guy. You actually know the characters, and you get enough time with each of the different factions that are involved with one another to get an idea of their motivations, how they're changing. You get full character arcs. It was somewhat weird, though, that certain key characters that you remember come in, and then they sort of disappear right away. Like, they give explanations, but it's just, I don't know, it's a bit odd that there's so much focus on this, and then they're out of here. And they also, more family members that come out of nowhere to kind of take roles and stuff. That was, whatever. Don't care too much about that aspect of it. But the characters do get better development. I think Luke Cage has a very interesting sort of development as a character over the entire series in this one. Being more confident, he's become more reckless and aggressive, And a lot of people are seeing that as a sign that, maybe you're letting this get to you too much, or you need to calm down and get, to the root of what makes you particularly a hero, as opposed to, just being another character in this large roster. And what it means, your presence on the street. And you get to see some really cool stuff from him throughout the entire thing, not only with the fights. Again, the fights are fantastic in this. You get like more of a wide, and you just get more of an epic battle. You feel the intensity, and there's not like a bazillion awkward cuts. There was some like weird behind the head camera angle things that bothers me a bit in film and stuff, but not a big deal. It did look really beautiful, the entire thing. I did think it was very well shot. It looks good. Before I get to that, I'm gonna go back to Luke Cage. So yeah, I really like the acting here. It was very interesting to see his growth into this new role that he's going to take on throughout the episodes. And part of that was just how the characters around him interact with him, when they come, when they go, and sort of the effect it has on him. There's also a crossover, finally. I won't spoil anything, but another problem I've had with the Netflix shows is like, you're part of this universe, and there's perfect situations where it's like, maybe I should call up one of the bros, or get the team together, or maybe, just more crossovers to make it feel like this is one universe. And we do not a huge amount, which is fine, because you don't need a ton of it. This is very much focused on one character. You do get a really cool crossover, and I think it actually might be the best kind of showcase of that particular character that we've seen yet in the Netflix shows. So hopefully that doesn't lead to anybody realizing who it is, but it's like, wow, they were actually kind of cool in this one, and with Luke Cage and them together, it was exciting to watch. I was like, crossover, and I thought they handled that really well, which was great. So moving past that, it was shot well. It looks really good. The pacing was great for the most part. You get some tense moments. There's a little bit of action trickled into every episode, so you're not getting bored. But there is the story and the character development, and really fleshing out each of the side characters, as well as the primary ones, where you get full motivations and everything which is nice. The music was great in this. They kind of really focus on every episode kind of having some musical elements to it. So you'll either get like a band playing, or there'll be an intense song to a certain moment, and yeah, the music really helps carry things. And it's a club, right? That's sort of the focus point of the street, and of course they'd be having music, right? So it only makes perfect sense. And yeah, just seeing that kind of mix in with everything was well done. I was entirely worried about this being something that would drag on, or they wouldn't quite know what to do with the second season, as that can be a problem, especially with these shows and how many episodes they have. But I thought it was handled very well, and I did really enjoy Luke Cage's second effort. And, the second solo effort. He's been in the other things and some minor crossovers and so forth in the past. So yeah, it's really intense, like very visceral too. There's some crazy things that go on in the later episodes, like kind of, over the halfway point. You get some really intense points that sort of spark some conflicts, and it really sort of dug also into the lore of what makes Luke Cage strong and who he is, and then giving him someone that's like comparable to him, with a different sort of background, but the same almost struggles that he had. And I think that works really well for making him more of a dynamic character. Because, he's bulletproof, he's invincible, he's even tougher, you'll see right away. But to find someone that actually kind of matches him properly without feeling, over the top, I think it worked very well. So with that, I'd give it a 8.2 out of 10. You can read my full review in the description below. And yeah, I definitely suggest it. If you're a fan of Luke Cage or the other kind of MCU shows or the Netflix stuff, I think this really ties in well. It builds the lore going forward, and it leaves the character in a very interesting place, and also gives a crossover character, gives him a bit more of a showcase to actually, kind of be like, yeah, this character could do very well in the future. And it kind of makes me excited about their upcoming season when that does arrive. And I think this was a good refresh point for Netflix and the Marvel shows. And it's a different type of show too, right? It's not exactly the same as the others. It's a tough, down-to-earth, very visceral, kind of environment. And if you like the character in the last season, or in the Defenders, or any of the crossover things, I think you're definitely going to like where he is in this entry.